All right, Sean Zattel and FightHype.com here with Alex Ariza and Team Chino Maidana. They've already finished up about 2 weeks of training, now about to start the third week. Guys, I just want to get into what's going on with Chino Maidana. The fans want to know. People want to know about his weight. There's talk that he'll come back to the welterweight division, but what weight was Marcos when he began training again?
Well, I think the first time I reached out to Terry was about almost a month. So he was about a little over 215. So by the time he got here, he was about 210, about 208, I want to say. It wasn't like we were trying to keep it a secret. It's just I wanted to really get a feel, once Terry got here and we could, do the body composition, do the analysis, and kind of really figure out after the composition to kind of see if the 47 really was a reality. So Maidana right now, Terry came yesterday, which is finally the team is complete. Everybody's now here, and she kind of did the evaluation, and so we're at 190 pounds today officially.
Wow!
So that's some good news. And well, Terry, you can tell us if the 157 or 147 is a reality.
Well, it's not a reality yet.
Yeah.
But it's aggressive, but doable. So, I mean, he's losing at a very fast pace, and we keep this up, well, we should be in good shape.
I think right now we're more kind of brainstorming, all of us, because my thing is I want to do it as slow as possible so I can keep the power. So, so that's the thing. So Vladi and I right now are trying to figure out the training schedule. Hector is obviously the chef, so he's brainstorming with the amount of the caloric intake, to make sure that we're not doing this too, like she said, too aggressively and too, I don't want to sit here. This isn't a fat loss contest, a weight loss contest. This is about getting him in the best shape and keeping as much of this power, this new power that he has, as long as possible. Obviously, and it's like we're running that fine line. You lose too much weight, you become lethargic, and that power leaves. But if we kind of do this correctly, I don't think we need to really start thinking about 154 at all. I think a 47 is something that we're going to shoot for. And according to what Terry did today, 6 weeks, we should be ready for camp. So June is what we're targeting, and June is that's the date that we want.
June at what weight?
Depends on the opponent. So I mean, if it depends on, he's been calling out Phil Greco, and Phil Greco's been calling him out, so they've been going back and forth. So I mean, Phil is willing to fight at 54. I'm going to want to get him at 52, 53. So that's kind of what we're doing, and Vladi and I are just kind of sitting here figuring out when we start hitting two-a-days is basically. So we're 2 weeks. We'll be starting our third week. So I think we've kind of decided that we're going to still stick to what we've been doing right now until the end of the month.
Now, Alex and Terry, you guys both worked with Manny Pacquiao for a lot of years.
Terry and I.
Terry, yeah.
We've been working together. Most people don't know who Terry is because she's really behind the scenes most of the time, and it has to do all the formulating of the dieting. So Terry and I have been together since 2007, since we first started with Manny. So it was her and I who collaborated really to start moving them through the divisions. And then Terry's worked with Amir Khan, Chavez Jr., which is where I met these two, and everybody else, Andrei Arlovsky, Mikey Garcia, Brandon. I mean, she's worked with everybody I've ever worked with. So,
And that leads into, with all that experience, is this going to be the toughest task you've had, doing what you do, having to get a guy from 200 pounds to 47 and somehow getting him as strong as he was when he was originally there?
It's kind of what I do every day. It's just that most of my high-profile clients aren't starting at that, weight, but that's kind of what I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's.
But I asked too, because like you and Alex are talking about, it's one thing to get to the weight, but to be the puncher that we've known him as and all that.
Well, we're looking at composition, right? So we're looking to lose the inflammation, water retention, fat, and retain the muscle. But that's why we take the numbers, so we can differentiate between those things. And that tells me it's not just about the weight, so I can see if we're starting to lose the muscle, then I know we've got to change something with the plan. We've got to up the food, we've got to up macros, we've got to change something that's maybe causing extra inflammation. That's why the more data, the better.
And just staying on that, is there, Chino's 35 years old, he's gotten a good 5-year rest from the sport. Do you think the body at 35 can perform the way it did before?
I've seen all sorts of things. Anything is possible. Plus we got blood testing now that we do, so we're looking forward to getting results in on that. And that'll allow us to pinpoint specific nutrients that might be, become imbalanced over the years, correct those. I just think that, aging is not necessarily a given. It's all the things you can do to sort of stop that process or slow it down. So I think age is a little bit...
And I think, well, Terry will get more into this right now, but what we've found from our doing the new blood testing, the suppression that happens inside the body, and I'll let Terry talk about that and why I think from our standpoint, especially mine and Hector, who's always in charge of the weight loss, why it's become almost, it's such a high, you hear it almost constantly. It's like almost epidemic that guys are not making weight anymore. So I had to go to Terry and figure out what the fuck is going on. And with the blood testing, we ended up having to revamp almost 90% of our diet, which Hector has been working with me for 6 years. So that's why he's having to come up with all these new things. So Terry, you could probably speak on the suppression that we're starting to find in the blood results and stuff like that.
Well, the food supply in this country is not the greatest. So there are all sorts of things that people consider healthy foods, but if you don't know the sourcing, the quality of that product, or the pesticides that are used, and I see it in the numbers, and this might be, we talk about this another time, but that's what I measure the caliper. So a lot of, I have this $3,000 ultrasound machine, I never use it, because people say, well, that's great, because you don't have water error, right? But the calipers, I want to see that water, because that's where we're having trouble making weight, is the food is causing that inflammation and causing that water retention. And that's usually the food supply.
So we got no. Yeah, well, I wanted to ask Rafael, what do you think? What did Chino talk to you about? What it was he was eating that got him up to 200 pounds or so back in Argentina? He was like,
bro, when you make that kind of money, you make, $12, $15 million. It's a good living. I just think it got to a point to where you can only do nothing for so long. And I think, I spoke to his wife and she was like, enough is enough, it's time to and Chino just got the bug. And to be honest with you, he just, like he said, he goes, you start watching these fights, and he was like, I can still compete at that level. I can still beat a lot of these guys. So I think one of the goals is, I think like everybody else, he wants to fight Manny Pacquiao. And, but you gotta earn that, and so we have to sit there and we can't just show up to a fight and expect to go 12 rounds and, and say, hey, we did the best we could and we did what we had to do to win. People are tired of hearing that. I mean, if you look at the throwback fighters like, Sugar Ray and Hagler and those guys, you never hear any of them say, oh, well, I just came in here, to do what I had to do to win. They lay it all on the line. So, and Chino's mentality is more like that. So,
well, Alex, I'm sure you heard though, talking about Chino getting the bug, and that makes a lot of sense. Sitting around, you can't do nothing forever. But I'm sure you've heard the mumblings from fans and from people like that who say Chino's coming back because he needs the money. Could you dispel that for people, or?
It's not me for the dispel to say no, yes or no.
Right,
that's
right.
What they think. That's what they think. They're entitled to think what they want.
Right. But is it more the case of a fighter just having the itch to fight again?
I think it's a fighter of seeing what's out, seeing the level of competition's out there, and he thinks that he can compete again at that level and win. Chino's style is very different than what you see these days. A lot of fighters are very methodical and technical, and they start off slow. Chino's a bell-to-bell fighter. We used to work with him anyway. So we're looking to get back up to that 1,000 pounds, 100 punches around kind of kind of fighter, a guy who starts from the beginning and ends and continues the fight like that, and just put it like that. But as far as the money is concerned, that's I mean, people are gonna think what they want to think. I mean, you can't sit there.
Yeah, and not to go too off topic with future fights for Chino and stuff like that, but
I think when somebody shows up to you and says, "Hey, we're going to offer you, 15, well, I don't know what they wrote in the thing, and what we read is $16-17 million for a few fights." That's a very hard thing to turn down. But you're not going to go out there and embarrass yourself and your legacy, over it. It's just I mean, especially he lives in Argentina. He's not going to come here and just get knocked out and then just to go back and say, "Oh, I made a few $1 million."
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I don't see that.